Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I would like to introduce you to my friend, Steve Heroux. He is a professional sales coach and the co-founder of Next Level Sales Coaching. We all know the topic of sales can be challenging at times, so today, Steve is going to teach us how to listen effectively.
Thanks, Heidi. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm so excited to share with you a few things about listening effectively and how it can really help you in sales. And it doesn't matter what business you're in. You could be a car salesman, you could be a medical rep, you could run a restaurant, you could be an attorney. Sales is a critical part of everybody's business. And so once you know how to do it the right way, being honest, having integrity, and acting with humility, you're going to have a lot more success than if you're just the typical used car salesman, quote unquote. And I want to start with a little background about myself. Again, starting in sales at a very young age, I learned a couple of things. And from third grade to, I'd say, freshman year of college, I did not say a word. No dances, no proms, no dates, no parties, none of that stuff. And it was funny because you've heard that term before, boy, that guy was born to be in sales. 0 people said that about me, none. And it was funny because freshman year I needed to get a job. I was broke, my parents were paying for college, and I was tired of asking them for money. And so I saw this ad, it said $10 an appointment, and I didn't really know what it meant. So I called it up, they said come in for the interview, and they said it's customer service. And I said, do I have to talk to people, or? And they said, yeah, kind of. And so I was nervous from the beginning because I didn't talk to anybody, but I went into the interview and man, this office was horrible. It was a basement office, smelled like mold, cobwebs hanging from I think it was actually the utility closet that they rented and turned into an office. But they hired me and I was really excited, went home, told my parents, and I didn't actually know, but they hire everybody. So I wasn't as special as I thought, but told my parents I got a job, and they said, that's great, Stevie, what are you going to be doing? I said, Mom, I'm actually going to be selling knives. And they said, no, really? My dad said, what's the job? I said, no, that's the job. I'm going to be selling knives. And so my dad said, 1, you're not going to do that because 1, you don't talk. 2, no one's going to buy your knives. And 3, we're not giving you the money. I said, that's great, Dad. Thanks for the inspiration. Hey, Mom, can I have 150 bucks? So my mom gave me the money, and I said I would pay them back, and my dad said, sure you will. And 3 weeks later, over between first semester and fall and second semester spring, I ended up #1 in New England. And it was funny because I'd never sold anything in my life before. I had no idea what I was doing. So I really was just honest. I didn't follow the scripts that they told me and use the tricks and all that kind of stuff. I just told people what I liked, and they bought a ton of stuff. And so fast forward senior year in college, I ended up #1 in the country with Cutco, and was really great to do because no one would have ever thought that I would have been good in sales. And sales is a language, everybody. It's something that you can learn, you can be great at. You just have to put the time into it. So from there, I ended up 7 years with that company, started with Aflac shortly after that, was 13 years with Aflac, and again, humbled and honored to make it to #1 in the country in new accounts with Aflac a few years ago. And it's funny because you think about somebody that didn't say a word from third grade to freshman year of college that now was leading sales teams and had a lot of success in sales. And so I tell all of you that because if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I'm going to share with you guys one thing today that I think is really, really an underutilized skill in selling, and that's listening. And most people, they think they're listening, but they're really not listening. So we're going to talk about 5 things today that prevent people from becoming masterful listeners. So the very first one you can jot down is, are you doing something else when the person is talking to you? And many of you know what I mean. You're having a conversation with somebody and they're doing this, they're on their cell, they're texting, they're doing something. They're not even paying attention to you. They're looking into space, or they just have a glassed over look. So you think about, do you do that to people? Are you doing something else when people are talking to you? Because it's very dismissive. If you're not focused on that person, and I don't really care what the situation is, you're not going to get the results that you want. And I don't mean in selling, I mean in relationships. So you got to think about, are you doing, again, what you should be doing, which is having 100% focus on them. Most people are thinking about something else right in the middle of their sales presentation. So they're thinking about, well, I got to get to my next meeting. What time do I have to get the kids? Boy, I got to make this sale to hit quota. And they're not focusing on the one person that's the most important person in the world at that time, and that's your prospect. So that's number one, everybody. Again, are you doing something else other than focusing on your prospect? The second one is, during your conversation with somebody, do you wait for a pause or do you just butt in? Are you an interrupter? I ask this question a lot with my clients and when I teach and give speeches and teach different folks about sales. And every time I ask, who are my interrupters? No hands go up. So you have to be honest with yourself. Do you have a tendency to interrupt people? And what I want to share with you is, if you have two people and they're both just yapping, talking, and nobody gets a word in edgewise, there's no progress in that conversation. And there's never a winner in an argument as it is, but there's certainly not one if you're both not letting each other talk. And so you got to think about, let's think about Judge Judy. So this is one of my mom's favorite shows. Whenever I'm home, I'm always watching it. So again, plaintiff goes, then defense goes, right? So plaintiff, defense, plaintiff, defense. They don't go at each other. And what happens when people do start going at each other? Judge Judy gets pissed. And if you keep interrupting people, it's really, really important to understand that Judge Judy is really going to get mad at you, right? Very, very important. So when you try to interrupt somebody, it's really important to know that Judge Judy's going to be on your butt, okay? So try not to interrupt because you're going to lose. And what's funny about the Judge Judy example is, if you're Judge Judy, someone interrupts you, and you see what happens, they lose the case, even if they're right. If you're interrupting during court, you automatically lose. So think about that every time you want to interrupt somebody, Judge Judy throwing you out of court, okay? So that's number two. Number three, really important. Do you pretend to listen so you can just squeeze in your own comments? A lot of people do that. They're not really listening, they're just pretending to listen. And you can tell when somebody's really not paying attention to you. It's very dismissive. It's not a good feeling. So you have to make sure that you're really, really focused on what they're doing. And the other thing that people do is, besides squeezing in their own comments, is they one-up people. And some of you know who I mean when I say this. So you have something great happen. Your day was tremendous. You call your buddy, your mom, your sister, your wife, your husband, and then you tell them how great your day was, and then they say, no, that's nothing. Let me tell you about how great my day was. See, you never want to be a one-upper. You always want to celebrate people's successes, even if they're small. So keep that in mind. When you're listening to somebody, whether they've had a great day, a bad day, a good day, an indifferent day, all you want to do is listen to them, let them talk. You can tell them about your day later, but just, again, you want them to be able to have an open forum to talk to you, so don't one-up people. Not a very good quality. Number four is, are you aware of the message that the person is sending non-verbally? See, a lot of people in sales, they just keep talking. They present, features, benefits. And what happens is, they're not even paying attention to what the person is giving off in terms of a vibe, their body language, their eye contact. Are they doing this? It's really important that you pay attention to the other factors and not just focus on what you want to say. It's funny because the crux of a sale is really the connection. It's building that relationship, and it's not the features and benefits. Most people think it is, but it's actually not. And so when you're paying attention to people and you can recognize that they either are uncomfortable, they need to leave, they're not clear on what you're saying, your results will increase dramatically from just nonverbal clues. And it's something that you can't ignore, because when you think about it, 75, 80, 85% of communication is nonverbal. So if you can be good at picking up those clues and those tells of what people are really feeling, you're going to have tremendous success in sales. The fifth part, the fifth and probably most important, is, do you listen through filters? In other words, do you judge the advice somebody gives you based on what they look like, what their sex is, what's their background, what's their experience? You really have to make sure that you don't judge the way that somebody is and the advice that they give you based on their situation. And this happens a lot in business, because somebody will say, I'm not listening to her, she's brand new, what does she know? Well, she might know something that you don't. She might have a different perspective on the business than you do. So you always have to be open. It doesn't really matter what people's background or their history is. They can give you a lot of advice. And I've learned so many things from so many people that had less experience than me in sales, but more experience in life than I did. And so you always want to make sure you take people's advice. Whether or not you put it into use, that's a totally different thing. But you really have to make sure that you're taking the advice. What you do with it's up to you, but don't dismiss it based on what somebody looks like or where they came from. The last thing I want to share with you guys is, how do you make sure that somebody knows that you're listening? And a lot of people do, again, tricks and, stupid things like, yep, sure, yes, I get it, right? And they want to create this phony, right, fakeness of listening. In reality, what you want to do is you just want to say a couple of things. And there's a few phrases I'm going to teach you guys today, and some of them are really, really helpful in life, not just in sales, but in life. And you notice we're talking a lot about life and selling together, because they do go together. You have to be an amazing human being first if you want to be successful in selling. Number two, you always have to be honest, and you have to engage with people. And number three, you have to be real. Look, we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's not okay to be fake. It's not okay to use techniques and tricks and all these other things that many of the sales coaches that you see out there are trying to teach you. You just have to be a real person. So how do you make sure that people know that you're listening? I'm going to teach you guys a couple phrases. The first one is, from my understanding. So let's say Heidi says something and I say, okay, Heidi, so from my understanding, just so I'm getting this correct, what you're saying is this. And you're repeating what they said to you. And what's funny is, many a time, what they said the first time is not really what they meant. And I'll give an example. We work with a lot of realtors, a lot of folks in the real estate industry. Let's say somebody says, hey Steve, I'm looking for a home on a cul-de-sac in a quiet neighborhood off the 5 in Del Mar, okay? And then I say, okay Heidi, so you're looking for a home that's in a quiet neighborhood on a cul-de-sac off the 5 around Del Mar. Do I have that right? And then she actually thinks about it, because she hears it back and says, well, you know what? The traffic on the 5 is really bad, and I do want a quiet house. I do want it on a cul-de-sac, but it really doesn't have to be in Del Mar. It could be in Carmel Valley. It could be in Rancho Bernardo. So what's funny is, you just asking that one thing, saying that one phrase, just from my own understanding, now you're going to be able to solve that need a lot better. The second one, and the one that I think is most important, is tell me more about. And this one can really help those one-uppers we were talking about before. When again, your spouse, your friend, your family comes home, business partner has a bad day, good day, whatever they say, let them talk, and then you say, so Heidi, tell me more about that. And it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, but those 4 words, tell me more about, can be the difference between you being a great salesperson and being an average salesperson. Because whatever they say, you can say that. Let's say they say, well, gee, Steve, you know what? Your product is just too high right now. I really don't think that I can afford that. And then I would say, Heidi, I totally understand that. Tell me more about that. I'm not going to be combative. I'm not going to try to solve her objection, which again is not something that we do, guys. We don't even spend time on objection solving, because this is what objection solving is. It's you being combative with your prospects, and it's you trying to convince them to buy from you. So what we teach is how to be real, how to be honest, and how to encourage people to talk and share, and then they'll tell you everything that you need to know. So when you say, tell me more about that, then they're going to say, well, the reason I think it's too high is this. We're going through this, we just moved, we have a new child, whatever it is, right? Now they're telling you the real reason. The real reason they're having a little bit of pause. And so now you can work with them because you're just being real and you're having a conversation with them. So I'd love to teach you guys more. Again, there's so many things we can talk about when it comes to sales and being effective in selling. But if you get this part down, if you just learn how to listen, your life could be totally different. And I'm going to end on this one story because it's just fun and it's amazing to have an impact on people that you don't think you could. And we've all heard that phrase, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? So I gave a talk a couple of weeks ago at a real estate office, and there were maybe 40, 50 people there. And I talked on this exact particular topic, which is how to listen effectively. And this gentleman comes up to me the next week, right, because I didn't see him that day, but I saw him the next week, and he said, young man, and I'm not young, right, but he's about 70 years old, and about my dad's age. He said, young man, I learned so much from you. And I was really honored and humbled that he had said that, because this gentleman's owned a construction company for 45 years and he's been around the block in business. And for him to say that he learned something was really humbling. And he said, what you taught me about listening was amazing. And I had heard some of it before, but not the way that you put it. And sometimes you need to hear something once or twice before you get it. And he said, Steve, I took what you said and I went home and I actually listened to my wife. I start laughing and he says, Steve, it was the best weekend I've had in 20 years. And so again, guys, this doesn't have to be just for sales and being effective in business. When you listen to people, they can relate to you, they feel connected to you, and you'll have a much better time living your life when you build those real human connections. And in turn, your sales are going to increase as well. So thank you guys for the time. Thank you so much, Heidi, for having me, and I'm excited to teach you guys more next time.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you'd like to learn more about Steve or find out how to contact him, please find him at nextlevelsalescoaching.com. And as always, you can learn more about Accelerate America at accelerateamerica.com or at Accelerate Biz.
And I did want to say one last thing. If you guys do want to talk a little bit more, my schedule's on meetme.so/call15. So meetme.so/call15. Thanks again, Heidi. Appreciate all the time.
Thanks,
everybody. See ya.